What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's tons of reveals this week. Even though the Geneva Motor Show was canceled, there are still just as many reveals, and in addition to that, GM revealed a bunch of their future plans and all this kind of stuff. So there is a ton of news to go over. So grab yourself one of your favorite beverages and a snack and settle in, and let's get through the news here. So the first reveal here from Geneva was Alfa Romeo has revealed the Giulia GTA. Which harkens back to the Giulia GTA from 55 years ago, does not stand for Grand Theft Auto, and it's based on the Quadrifoglio model, but uses an enhanced version of that 2.9 liter bi-turbo V6 that now does 540 horsepower. But an even bigger enhancement here is that it has a 220-pound weight loss that this new model gets, and so this is thanks to carbon fiber for the drive shaft, hood, roof, front bumper, front wheel arches, rear wheel arch inserts, as well as carbon fiber rear wing and seats that you can get on the even more track-focused GTA M model that's still street legal and gives you that huge rear wing. The M stands for modified though, and it also, in addition to all that stuff, ditches the rear seats, the door panels are gone, it has Lexan side and rear windows as well, so that makes it even lighter. It also gets a roll bar with a 6-point harness, and so that's again just for that M version, but then both models have Alcantara everywhere on the interior, and all this weight reduction brings the weight down to about 3,350 pounds, which gives the car a 6.2 pound to horsepower ratio, which Alfa Romeo is very proud of. And so 0 to 62 mile per hour takes 3.6 seconds. Other enhancements here, it gets more advanced active aerodynamics thanks to the learnings from their Formula One team. It gets the more aggressive styling, of course, that you see here. The center mounted Akrapovic exhaust, 20-inch center lock wheels on 50mm wider wheel tracks, and a whole new suspension setup with new springs, shock absorbers, and bushings. And so the only bummer about all this is only 500 of these things are going to be made for the entire world, so I'm not even sure if any of these will come to the States, and if they will, it's going to be very few of them. And for each lucky owner that buys one of these, they're also going to get a matching helmet, race suit, and car cover to go along with it. There's no pricing for these revealed yet, but I'm sure it's going to be crazy expensive and not even worth asking. Porsche this week revealed the new 2021 911 Turbo S, and so it, obviously is very similar to the same formula as past Turbo S's. It runs the 3.8 liter turbo flat 6 that does 640 horsepower now, which is 60 more than the old one, and 590 pound-feet of torque. It gets the unique 8-speed PDK transmission and all-wheel drive. 0 to 60 only takes 2.6 seconds, making it faster than even the previous gen GT2 RS. So pretty crazy there. 10.5 second quarter mile time for this thing, and a 205 mile per hour top speed. It gets huge carbon ceramic brakes with 10 piston front calipers. The exterior gets a bigger rear wing, and the whole car is 1.8 inches wider up front than the old Turbo S and 0.7 inches wider in the rear. The wheels are staggered and center lock wheels with 20s up front and 21s in the back. And so these are going to be arriving in America by the end of this year, but they're about $13,000 more expensive than the old ones, meaning that they're going to be starting at $204,850 for the coupe and $217,650 for the convertible. But great to see that addition, and of course there will be a slower standard turbo model as well as all the other models coming down the road as well. McLaren has revealed the 765 LT, which is the more hardcore version of the 720S, and so the more aggressive styling you can see here is a signature trait of the LT, as well as a larger active rear wing than what the 720S has, and so that all those enhancements provide 25% more downforce than the 720. Body panels are lighter thanks to unique carbon fiber for the 675 LT specifically. There's also thinner glass and even the option to delete the stereo and the air conditioning if you're actually serious about removing weight. And the battery's even a lighter lithium-ion one that saves 6.6 pounds, and so total weight savings is 176 pounds less than a 720. 720S, and so it comes in around 2,709 pounds. I'm not sure if that's dry or wet, but still very low weight. The enhanced 4-liter twin-turbo V8 does 755 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. It sings through its new quad-tipped exhaust system as well, which looks nice. 7-speed dual-clutch transmission still. 2.7 seconds for the 0 to 60 on this one. 0 to 124 miles per hour takes only 7.2 seconds and has a 205 mile per hour top speed as well. Other enhancements it has are quicker steering, standard carbon ceramic brakes, unique Pirelli tires, and unique suspension tuning, of course, as well. Only 765 of these are going to be made, with the first deliveries starting in September. So cool to see that. Koenigsegg has revealed 2 cars this week. First is the Jesko Absolut. It runs the same crazy 1,600 horsepower twin-turbo V8 as the regular Jesko, but this car ditches the rear wing there for 2 fins to give the car less drag, and so this is all supposed to be going after the top speed record. And so in further pursuit of this less drag mission, the car is lower, it has a longer rear deck, the rear wheel covers are added there to give it less drag, and they've also removed the front air duct and front wheel louvers. They're hoping this again helps them to reclaim that speed record. And the company also says they will never endeavor to make a faster series production road car ever. So this means, aside from possible one-off models in the future, this is the fastest vehicle that Koenigsegg ever plans to build. So they're going to be going kind of down market as far as what they're going to be doing. And I think, again, fastest, when they say fastest, they mean top speed. So acceleration, all that kind of stuff can still improve in future vehicles. But as far as doing something that does over 300 miles per hour, this is it. They're not going to be worried about that after that, which makes sense. There's no point really pursuing that aside from having a bragging right. But anyway, still a very sweet car nonetheless. And speaking of this new direction for Koenigsegg of making stuff that isn't 300 mile per hour cars, they revealed this second car called the Gemera. I might be butchering that pronunciation, but anyway, it's this rumored GT model from Koenigsegg. It has 4 seats, and the back seats are supposedly very usable, and that was a goal, was to make them true back seats and not just, a nice place for luggage. And so the setup is very unique, though. It runs a mid-mounted, get this, twin-turbo 2-liter 3-cylinder engine that they call the Tiny Friendly Giant. I love that. And that alone, a 3-cylinder twin-turbo engine does 600 horsepower. They picked this engine and decided to keep it small to keep this mid-engine layout that it still has, but to still have enough room there for those back seats. So a very cool combo. It combines this with 3 electric motors, 1 up front and 2 in the back, for total power of 1,700 horsepower and 2,581 pound-feet of torque. I mean, these are mind-blowing numbers. 0 to 62 miles per hour only takes 1.9 seconds, which is tied with that thing last week that I was covering that also claims that, but it's a totally unknown company. Koenigsegg, I believe, can do it here. This is thanks to it having all-wheel drive. It also has 4-wheel steering and torque vectoring for all the wheels as well. It has a 15 kilowatt-hour battery for 31 miles of EV range as well for this Gemera, and a total range of 621 miles, again, for gas and EV combined. So obviously that engine is very fuel efficient when you're just cruising since it's so small. The interior is luxurious and has heated and cooled seats. There's large touchscreens for both the front and the back passengers, and each passenger also has a hot cup holder and a cold cup holder, meaning there's 8 cup holders total in the car. Not sure why you need to have a separate one for hot and cold. Very interesting there. But anyway, only 300 of these Gemeras will be built, but still, that's way more than most Koenigseggs. I don't think Koenigsegg's ever made 300 of any model, honestly. And the price is less than the others too, but it still is $1.7 million for this thing. So crazy stuff, but a very impressive car. I'd be curious to hear how it sounds, and also how that battery pack will live up to, I guess providing enough electricity for those electric motors, because I don't think the little gas engine can produce that much electricity to power all those motors. But anyway, a very interesting thing nonetheless there. And some other insane hypercar news. I apologize, there's lots of high-end stuff this week, but I'll get to some more relatable stuff in a few minutes. Other hypercar stuff. Bugatti has revealed the Chiron Pure Sport, and so this version is about handling handling. And so Bugatti claimed in an interview with Autoblog that this version has a lot of little details that add up to a very different driving experience. You immediately feel the car is nimbler and more agile. So, I think it's obviously, again, they're going for handling with this one. It gets more aggressive styling, with the standout feature being this 74-inch long rear wing for more downforce. But even though it's huge, it's saved 110 pounds over the heavy hydraulic spoiler it replaces. The wheels even have a unique design to create downforce and are made of magnesium. They wear Bugatti exclusive Michelin Sport Cup 2R tire. It also gets stiffer springs, of course, unique brakes that are lighter, and an exclusive Sport Plus mode to allow drifts, actually, which is pretty sweet. And it'll be like a controlled drift. I think they got that technology from Lamborghini, and so that's cool. Power is the same crazy 1500 horsepower that it always has been, but the engine now revs 200 RPM higher for a 6900 RPM redline, and the transmission is a new 7-speed auto with shorter gear ratios, and so this adds up to being 2 seconds faster when you're going from 37 miles per hour to 75 miles per hour. I don't think anyone ever thought a Chiron was slow, but yeah, anyway, that's a nice improvement, I suppose. But these new changes do mean that the top speed is now only 217 miles per hour. What a shame. Only 60 of them are going to be made, and they're going to be costing $3.3 million. So crazy there. Aston Martin has revealed their very expensive, very rare vehicle, the V12 Speedster. And this joins the other hyper rare cars without windshields, which has been a fad here in the past year or two. But at least the price is a little more reasonable on this one. And so this is going to be starting at $950,000. Still way less than like the McLaren Alfa, which is like double that and stuff. Anyway, for this Aston Martin, only 88 of these are going to be made. And while it looks like it's based on the Vantage, the platform is actually a combination of Vantage and DBS Superleggera, which I guess is how they're able to fit the 5.2 liter twin turbo V12 into this that it runs. It does 700 horsepower and 555 pound-feet of torque. But it makes me wonder if this V12 could fit under the hood of the Vantage, because it looks very similar to the front end of a Vantage to me. Supposedly the vent in the hood there is what gave it enough room for that V12. So maybe bring over a Vantage with this hood, stuff the V12 in there, keep the manual transmission from the new 2020 Vantage I talked about a few weeks ago, and you would have a very enticing vehicle there. But this is also very cool, but again, 950 grand. Other stuff here is that 0 to 62 takes 3.5 seconds, and top speed is 186. Although doing 186 without a windshield would be a very crazy experience. This all goes through a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. Other unique things here, aside from the crazy carbon fiber bodywork, are that the wheels are 21-inch forged wheels, and they're center locking as well. And it also gets massive carbon ceramic brakes, of course. Deliveries for these begin in Q1 of 2021. So cool to see that. Bentley revealed their own bespoke, totally custom bodied car called the Mulliner Bacalar, and so only 12 hand-built models will be made. It's based on the Continental GT convertible, but this car has no roof at all, only 2 seats, and every single body panel is unique. The lighting is totally unique. Everything is just for this car, at least for now. And the lighting is very cool, I think. I love the way it looks, all the details and stuff. The doors and fenders are carbon fiber, so it's a little bit lighter as well with that. The interior also blends wool with leather, and the wood trim, they say, is from 5,000-year-old trees that were found in rivers, lakes, and peat bogs. Very interesting there. But anyway, it runs an upgraded version of the W12 motor from the Continental GT that in this application does 650 horsepower, which I think is about 30 more than normal, and 667 pound-feet of torque. So very cool there, but again, only 12 of them made. I don't know the price, but it's going to be in the millions, and yeah. Anyway, cool thing for those billionaires out there. Other news, getting to more reasonable stuff now. BMW has revealed the Concept i4, and so while this is a concept, it's pretty production ready, and they say production will start in 2022, which sounds still a little far off, but anyway, the car looks great, and it's based on the same platform as the upcoming 4 Series Grand Coupe, so I would expect this to look fairly similar to the actual normal 4 Series Grand Coupe as well. But anyway, we still don't have too many specifics about the powertrain, but the main specs here are that it's going to supposedly have 530 horsepower, and 0 to 60 is going to be around 4 seconds, and it'll also have about 373 miles of range supposedly. That's probably European testing cycle, which means it's inflated. And, I guessed for something in the low to mid 300 range is going to be more realistic. Interior on this is very futuristic, but not too far from being production ready, with a familiar center console from other BMWs, and two 12-inch screens for gauges and infotainment, which is stuff we see in current models. So nothing too crazy there. And so yeah, hopefully we see the production version of this, sometime in the not too distant future. Hyundai revealed the Prophecy concept at Geneva here, the virtual Geneva, and it's really cool looking. It looks like a modern version, to me at least, of a four-door 996 version of the Porsche 911, but in a good way, if that makes any sense. It also has this sweet plaid interior, which makes up for the fact that they ditched the steering wheel for two silly joysticks, but otherwise a really cool interior as well. And yeah, the whole vehicle is just gorgeous and very striking looking. This is supposed to preview future Hyundai design, and while many of these design elements, they might be hard to incorporate, I think things like the headlights and stuff could potentially be incorporated over, but the shape and stuff, I don't know how you would translate that to any other actual production model in the Hyundai lineup. But we do know that Hyundai and Kia are both partnering up with Rimac to do halo electric vehicles that are going to be, kind of four-door sports cars. And so maybe this is Hyundai's take on that. That would be awesome if so, I really hope, because that is gorgeous looking. And although Porsche might be a little bit annoyed by it, I think all of us would probably love to see these things on the road. So we'll have to see what pans out there. But for some attainable production car reveals here, Genesis revealed finally some shadowy images here of the 2021 G80. And so this is the all-new third-gen G80 and looks great with many styling cues shared with the GV80 SUV. The interior also shares many components with the GV80, like the 14.5-inch touchscreen display, digital gauges, steering wheel, and the overall interior design. They also said they made the A-pillar thinner and the rearview mirror smaller, which are two complaints I guess people had with the old G80. Didn't mind those myself when I reviewed the G80, but anyway. So other things here, it's going to be arriving in South Korea this month actually, and should arrive here in the States by the end of this year, but we don't have any details on that. We also don't have any mechanical details, but the chances are it's going to have the same engine options you get in the GV80, which means you're going to get the base engine will be the 2.5 liter turbo 4 that's coming in the N-Line Sonata that I did a quick drive video on that does 290 horsepower, and then there's also the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 in the GV80 that does 375 horsepower. That'll be the upgrade motor most likely for the G80 as well. Pricing was just announced, by the way, for the GV80 this past week, and so it's going to be starting at $49,925, so 50 grand to start. It can be loaded up to over $72,000 fully loaded, and so expect the G80 to get similar pricing, although it could be a few grand cheaper for the sedan over the SUV, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to see the G80 finally. Mercedes has revealed the refreshed 2021 E-Class here, and it gets a tweaked front end with new headlights and a slightly more aggressive grille shape. The back end gets new horizontal taillights to replace the vertical ones it shared with the other Mercedes sedans in the past, so I guess all Mercedes now are going to be switching over to horizontal taillights. And so the images you're seeing here of the E53 version, which is the AMG model, one of the AMG models. The interior also gets a new steering wheel design, and there's the 12.3 inch screens that are now standard for both the gauges and the infotainment. They used to be an optional upgrade. Speaking of the E53 though, it doesn't have any mechanical changes, so that's the same as it was before, so nothing there aside from the new styling and new interior touches. But for the regular E450, they finally have gotten rid of the old V6 and replaced it with the 3 liter inline 6 that's turbocharged and has the 48 volt mild hybrid setup as well, and that combines to make the same horsepower as the old V6, so 362 horsepower still, 369 pound-feet of torque. The E300 still runs the same 4-cylinder as it did before, but again also gets those new styling tweaks. They all run the 9-speed automatic still, and there's also a new all-terrain model which adds slightly more rugged looks to the E-Class wagon, along with all-wheel drive, air suspension, off-road drive modes, and hill descent control. And it's also going to be available here in the States for the first time. Usually it was just for Europe, but I guess they want to have some competition here for the new A6 Allroad that's coming, and also for the V90 Cross Country from Volvo and stuff like that. Lastly though, another thing we're getting from Europe is the plug-in hybrid version of the E-Class is coming, and it's going to be called the E350E, which is kind of funny. It uses the 2 liter turbo 4, but adds a 90 kilowatt electric motor for combined output of 315 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. And so anyway, there's no battery or electric range given yet, but strangely, it's only going to be offered here in the States with rear-wheel drive, which certainly is going to kill its appeal with anyone that ever sees snow in the wintertime. But anyway, all these E-classes are going to be arriving late this year, so cool to see that. Audi has revealed the 2021 A3 Sportback for Europe, and so a sedan version of this is going to be coming to the States probably later this year, and most likely will have a very similar front end and interior, so that's why I'm covering this. It looks really good, similar to the new Gen Q3 on the outside and the inside. The hatch you see here is 1.2 inches longer than the previous generation, so there should be a little more space inside too, and I'm guessing the sedan will be longer by a similar amount as well. The interior gets some nice tech upgrades though, like the 10.1 inch touchscreen is standard, and Audi's virtual cockpit is now also standard. Audi also says the infotainment system has 10 times more computing power than the old system, so it should be quicker and everything. Several engine options in Europe, of course, but here in the States it'll probably use the same 2-liter turbo motor that the current Gen A3 does. But anyway, for those of you in Europe, these hatches are actually going to be on sale this month as 2020 models, so cool to see that. Audi has also revealed the E-Tron S and the E-Tron S Sportback this week, and so it adds an additional electric motor in the rear for a new sustained horsepower of 429 and 596 pound-feet of torque, but it can peak to 496 horsepower and 718 pound-feet of torque for 8 seconds when it's floored. And so 0 to 60 in that scenario is 4.4 seconds. It uses the same battery as the regular E-Tron though, but Audi says they've opened up 91% of the available used battery versus 88% you could usually use in the standard E-Tron. So I'm guessing this helps the range decrease slightly, but with that extra motor, it's still going to suck down way more electricity, and so probably will have lower range than the regular version. Steering and suspension have been retuned to be sportier, of course, as well, and it runs 285 wide tires all around. The brakes are also upgraded with larger rotors and 6-piston calipers. The exterior gets wheel arches that are almost an inch wider, along with more aggressive bumpers too. And so we don't have any details on when it'll be arriving. Obviously, this is the European version we're seeing because it has the camera side view mirrors we don't get in the States and stuff. But hopefully this will be coming to the States, sometime this year as well. Fiat has revealed the 2021 Fiat 500, and even though it looks similar to the current version, it's totally new for this second generation and will be sold alongside the current gen in Europe. So there's a good reason to that I'll get to in a minute, but we won't be getting it here in the US, sadly, since the current gen doesn't sell well, so this is just for Europe. But the main big news I still wanted to cover here is that this new one is totally electric now, and so that's why they're still selling the old one alongside it to help, for people who aren't ready to go for a fully electric model, and also don't want to pay the extra amount for the electric version. So it runs a 42 kilowatt hour battery and has 118 horsepower electric motor, and so this makes for range of 199 miles on the European testing cycle, which is pretty solid for a little car. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes 9 seconds, and top speed's only 93 miles per hour, but again, this is primarily a city car, not a big deal. It's a little longer and a little wider actually than the old car, and the wheelbase is about an inch longer as well. The interior is more modern too, with digital gauges and a 10.25 inch touchscreen display. It's on sale now in Europe actually, but only the launch edition model has been priced so far, and so it's over double what the cost of the current 500 started at. So in Italy, the 500, the regular old version, started around $17,000, and this new launch edition, which is likely fully loaded, but still, it starts at $42,000. And so the standard one should be cheaper, but still is going to be way more expensive. So I think that's really going to be the big holdup. This new 500 will be for people who just want a city car, and it's not an economical choice. It's just a fun choice. People who actually buy 500s in Italy, which apparently is still a very common thing. Those people that are just buying it because it's economical are probably going to be the ones that continue to buy the old one for a good while. But anyway, interesting to see that. Moving on from the Geneva debuts, though, Tesla revealed their new track package for the Model 3, and this also goes along with a track mode version 2 software update. So the update now gives you a G-force meter, accelerometer, and other real-time telemetry, like a lap timer. You can also now control the power split between the front and the back for easier drifts, and you can also control the stability control and brake regen and set everything up, and then you can save different profiles. for, once you get everything dialed in there at the track. And yeah, so that's cool. Cameras can also now record track runs to a USB stick. And for the track package, the physical package, you get new 20-inch wheels wrapped in 245 wide Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, along with high-performance brake pads and track-ready brake fluid. And so it's a package anyone can add to their model, either current or older models of the Model 3 here. And it's installed by a certified retailer. And so including install, the package is $5,500. So I think that's reasonable though for the tires and the wheels and all that kind of stuff and having it installed. But obviously you could probably save a little bit of money doing something like that yourself. But anyway, cool to see they're making that available. But one of the big stories this week here is General Motors had an EV day, they called it, this past week, where they brought a bunch of journalists in to check out all their future electric vehicles in the pipeline that are coming in the next couple of years, and also to check out their new Ultium battery, as what they're calling it. It's a new battery pack and platform that they've developed. And so no photos of the new vehicles were allowed, so there's no pictures aside from this side silhouette and an image of the new illuminated Cadillac badge that's going to be coming. But if you'd like to read full descriptions of what every car looked like, they were allowed to talk about what the cars looked like. They just weren't able to take pictures. I'll link in the description below. Autoblog did a full write-up on each model and what they looked like. You can read that if you're really curious to hear all the details on these models. They sound all pretty impressive, especially the Cadillacs here. So first off, the model that is going to be coming first is the Cadillac EV that is about the size of the XT5 and was teased last winter in Detroit. And so it's going to be called the Lyric, and that's the first time we've heard that name, and it's going to be revealed in New York next month, so we'll see that one pretty soon. It had, supposedly according to them, styling similar to the concept that was teased last year, but according to Autoblog, it has a 34-inch pillar-to-pillar LED display, which is pretty cool. They also showed a new Halo sedan called the Celestiq, which is going to be built, and they will be producing all these models that they saw. And so this is going to be Cadillac's return to hand-built vehicles as well. So that means it's going to be very expensive, but it'll also mean that it's going to be a very high-end vehicle, and should really restore some of the prestige of the Cadillac brand, I think. And so that should be exciting. And so along with this, a few little details of this sedan. And supposedly it's super long, has a very long wheelbase, and it looks very dramatic. They also said the roof is made entirely of tinted glass. So that's very exciting to hear as well. Again, hopefully all this stuff makes it to the actual production version of this car. It also is going to be getting a pillar-to-pillar LED display and be super luxurious, of course. Not sure how soon that one's going to arrive, but they did say they are going to build it, and it'll be hand-built, which will be very cool. The last Cadillac that they showed was this large SUV that's about the size of an Escalade, but has a slightly shorter cargo area in the back. It's going to be using the same platform as the GMC Hummer EV, supposedly, that was teased during the Super Bowl. And so, speaking of that Hummer, though, that new Hummer was also shown and supposedly is huge and very predictably. It features a removable roof, though, which is kind of cool, and the panels are stored in the front trunk. So kind of similar to the Corvette thing, with that Targa top, but it also has pillars connecting the C-pillar to the sides of the bed, similar to like the old Chevy Avalanche truck, which I think is a very cool touch. Other things here is that there's going to be an SUV version of this Hummer truck as well that was also shown to these journalists. It's on a shorter wheelbase than the truck is, but it's basically going to look like the Hummer truck, just with a sealed-off cargo area, of course, instead of the truck bed. So that's cool. And alongside all those improvements there for that Hummer, they also talked about the interior briefly, and supposedly it'll be getting a 15-inch central touchscreen display along with 12-inch gauge cluster display as well. And other more affordable GM electric products coming. Supposedly there's going to be a Chevy and a Buick version of that Lyric SUV from Cadillac. And the Chevy is going to have a little more boxy shape for the rear cargo area to give it a little more practicality. And even it will have curved LED displays, though, including an 18-inch touchscreen, which is crazy. Lastly, the Chevy Bolt is getting a refresh later this year, and that includes a nicer interior, supposedly, but not too many changes. There's also going to be, though, a 3-inch longer crossover version of the Bolt coming. And production of that is actually going to be starting in summer of 2021. That's one of the only ones they actually gave a specific release date on. It's also going to be the first non-Cadillac to get Super Cruise as well, so that, obviously advanced driver assistance tech. There's also going to be an electric version of that Buick crossover as well. And the last thing here GM talked about was the Ultium battery pack, which uses flexible pouch battery cells and uses a new battery chemistry that reduces the amount of rare cobalt that's needed by 70%. And so battery packs will range from 50 kilowatt hours to 200 kilowatt hours, with the ability to give up to 400 miles of range with that biggest battery pack. And because of their partnership with LG Chem, the prices of these batteries is supposedly going to be coming down as well. So that should be, very helpful to make these vehicles somewhat affordable. We'll have to see. But anyway, very exciting to hear all that stuff, and looking forward to seeing that first, the new Cadillac Lyriq next month. And for the last few stories this week, first, very briefly, the last Chevy Impala has rolled off the production line this past week, and it's been on the market for almost 60 years. It's very sad. I'm a lover of vintage cars, so it's a bummer to see a historic nameplate like the Impala go away. But like any other new car, if people don't buy them, then they can't keep building them. It doesn't make sense financially. Chevy's in the business of making money, and so the Impala was not doing that, and so they can't justify making them. So it's kind of a bummer. But yeah, anyway, it's just the way the market is. Volkswagen has also killed off the e-Golf this week, and the 2020 model years versions are going to be actually going to Canada only. So we're not going to get them here in the States. And this is supposedly to make room for the ID4 electric SUV, but that's going to be so much bigger and more expensive. It doesn't seem to make sense. The real reason why they're killing off the e-Golf and only selling a few to Canada is that it's going away because the Mark 7 Golf is going away in general for the new Mark 8 that I just showed last week. And we know the ID3 hatch is obviously available in Europe for those who want an electric hatch. And unfortunately here in the States, we don't get the ID3. They didn't think that we would buy an electric hatch. They're probably right. But, I think maybe someday the ID3 could come here if, demand seems to suggest that it would sell. But anyway, in the meantime, we'll see the ID4, I think, in New York. And, but yeah, shame about the e-Golf, though, because I thought it was a really cool thing. You have the great driving dynamics of the Golf, but just have the electric powertrain. I thought it was a very cool idea. The last little news story here, very briefly, is the director of the new Batman movie showed 3 pictures of the new Batmobile for the upcoming movie, and it looks basically to me like what Dominic Toretto would build if he became the Batman. And so I'm not in love with it, honestly. It might make more sense in the context of the plot, but to me it doesn't look much like a Batmobile still. And so, it is what it is. I was lucky enough to see all the previous generations of the Batmobiles in person driving around several years ago, and they all are just so impressive and mind-blowing. And I mean, this vehicle looks cool. No doubt about that. It's a cool looking muscle car, but again, looks like it belongs in a Fast and Furious movie and not in a Batman movie. But, it is what it is. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, especially since this one took a lot more work to do since it was so long. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all these things in the comments below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.